those guidelines too. Is that? Do you have a problem with that?
So what was the guideline that got Oliver Behrman a penalty? He was half a car length on the inside, and what guideline gives him a penalty there?
When overtaking the outside, the overtaking car must have its front axle ahead of the front axle of the other car at the apex, be driven in a controlled manner from entry to apex and to exit, and be able to make the corner within track limits. So, therefore, it was Sainz's corner, according to the guidelines.
But must have the front axle in front of the inside car's front axle at the apex. But he never left enough space to find out if his front axle was in front. I don't understand. I mean, surely in that guideline you also need to leave space if there's a car on the inside, right? But it doesn't say that.
Yeah, I've got the driving standards guidelines in front of us here, and this is my issue. At the very top, it says these are guidelines and not regulations. And I think what's happening after Zandvoort and Monza is we're seeing the stewards now take the guidelines and say, right, cut and paste. This is exactly how it needs to be viewed. Right, yeah, it's a penalty for Ollie Behrman. I don't think Ollie Behrman deserved a penalty for that. It looked like a clumsy racing incident that honestly, I've gone back and listened to my commentary, and I do not sound surprised in any way, shape or form that we had the incident that we had, because I could see it coming a mile off, because neither were going to yield on this one, and it just looked like a racing incident. Now, yeah, Ollie Behrman's now got 2 points away from a race ban. Kevin Magnussen's probably getting twitchy, thinking I'll get another race in Formula One, to replace the guy who replaced me last year. But a bit of common sense needs to be applied, surely, on this. I don't think it was a penalty. It was a clumsy racing incident.
Yeah, well, I think it was a penalty, but for Sainz. Because there's no reason why, if there's half a car on the inside of you and you're fighting for position, you need to leave space at the apex. Like, how can you just run him off the road to the inside and then cause a collision? That makes no sense. So for me, it was a penalty for Sainz.
Well, he got 4 more races, Ollie Behrman, until some of his penalty points drop off. But 10 points on his license now, so he finds himself actually in a similar situation that Kevin Magnussen found himself in, and then of course took the ban. Finish with a couple of rookies, shall we?
Oh, can we just raise the Lando Norris versus Oscar Piastri battle from last year on lap 1? You know how Oscar went round the outside on lap 1 in exactly the same spot, and it was exactly the same half a car length. Lando was in there. And Oscar left space, and they went through together, and Oscar came out ahead. And that was fair, clean racing. If Oscar would have drove into Lando on the inside, Oscar should have had a penalty. It's the same with Sainz here.
Yeah, Stuart said Sainz had his front axle ahead of the front axle of Behrman at the apex, thereby earning the right to the racing line. Behrman defended his position on the inside instead of giving up the position, caused the collision.
Yeah.
I mean, we could argue all day over it, but it's no one size fits all, isn't it? And that's the issue here. Again, much like when you're getting into writing papaya rules, for example, and wondering, what the right thing to do is there. You can't write a rule for every possible situation. But as I mentioned, with regards to these last two rookies to discuss. I mean, Bortoleto, he started 7th, finished 8th. I mean, he kind of eased into this season. Q3 5 times. Nico Hülkenberg, brilliant qualifier, not gone to Q3 yet. Hülkenberg's called him a machine. He sim races with Max Verstappen and is good friends with him. He's managed by Fernando Alonso. Now, quite the mentoring system. If you think that Crofty was mentored by Murray Walker and his local butcher, look where that left him. He's the man he is today. But what about Bortoleto and the way that he's been mentored by those two? It seems like it's rubbing off. I couldn't think of 2 better ones. Could you, Nico?
No, great stuff. great stuff. And he's one of the rising stars of the season, together with Hadjar as well. And in go-karting, I remember Bortoleto very well. He was sensational, but he was not on the level of a Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton in go-karting. But his F1 start here, this first year, has been absolutely exceptional, and he's really brilliant.
Leads us on actually quite well, doesn't it, Crofty?
Is it book club?
Well, I mean, you did say that it was time for a gratuitous plug towards the end.
So, because you are far too modest, and it would be unfair of you to publicise some of the excellent books about racing that have been published for this week. So, I'm going to do it for you. And here is a very good friend of mine who's produced a book this week. My very good friend in Australia, Jess Yates, has produced this amazing.
Of course. Here is the news piece rewritten to be more dramatic, engaging, and attractive for a wider audience, while staying true to the original facts. Asterisk, 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 hashtag, hashtag, hashtag an uneasy truce. Mercedes locks in its drivers, but Verstappen's shadow looms large on the surface. It's a done deal. Mercedes has confirmed its driver lineup for 2026, with George Russell and Kimi Antonelli officially in the hot seats. Team boss Toto Wolff called the announcement a matter of when, not if. But behind the polished press releases lies the real story of a turbulent season, a relentless pursuit, and the unsettling ghost of a rival driver who nearly upended everything, Max Verstappen. Hashtag, 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 hashtag the hunt for a king for months. The name Max Verstappen haunted the Mercedes garage. While Wolff publicly claimed a move for the reigning champion was not on any radar, it was a tactical deflection that everyone in the paddock saw through. The truth? Wolff was actively courting the Dutchman, hoping to land the biggest prize in Formula 1. It was an open secret. The talks were real, and the implications were enormous. George Russell, the man who had stepped up to lead the team after Lewis Hamilton's departure, knew exactly what was happening. It's only normal that conversations with the likes of Verstappen are ongoing, Russell admitted with candid unease at the Austrian Grand Prix. His comments laid bare the tension simmering beneath the surface. Hashtag, 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 hashtag Russell's uncomfortable throne for Russell. The situation was a brutal lesson in F1's ruthless hierarchy. Here was a driver who had bested the legendary Lewis Hamilton in 2 of their 3 seasons as teammates, was comfortably outperforming his rookie partner, and was proving himself a bona fide team leader. By any normal measure, a new contract should have been a formality. But with Verstappen in the picture, nothing was normal. The strain became undeniable when Russell let his guard down. Maybe interests were not aligned for the last 6 months, he confessed, revealing the personal toll of the speculation. I don't have huge power in this agreement. For Kimi and me, the last 6 months have not been the most assuring, and that is conflicting. It was a stunning admission. Despite his stellar performances, Russell knew he could be the one cast aside if Wolff succeeded in capturing his white whale. Hashtag, 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 hashtag a future built on shifting sands. Ultimately, it was Verstappen himself who called a halt to the rumors, clearing the path for Mercedes to finally lock in its lineup. But this new deal is less a fortress of stability and more a temporary ceasefire. The contract lengths remain strategically vague, described only as multi-year. In the world of F1, that could mean anything from a single guaranteed year with options to a more solid commitment. It's a flexibility that works both ways. Why the caution? All eyes are on 2026 and the sport's great reset. New car and engine regulations threaten to shuffle the entire grid. Mercedes is rumored to have an edge with its new power unit, a critical advantage that could lure any driver craving a championship-winning car. After years of dominance, Verstappen has grown weary of Red Bull's recent struggles. If the team's self-built 2026 engine falters and Mercedes roars back to the front, his contract, which runs to 2028, might not be the ironclad commitment it appears to be. Wolff knows this. And more importantly, Russell knows this. The chase may be over for now, but the game is far from finished. As Toto Wolff bluntly stated earlier this year. Our sport is pressure, constant pressure. George knows that, like any other driver knows it. The contracts are signed, but in Formula One, the ink is never truly dry.